Hello, SHRM family. Welcome to another edition of the WorkplaceTech Spotlight. I'm Guillermo Corea, Managing Director of SHRMLabs, SHRM's Workplace Innovation Lab. I'm your host for this series where we shine a spotlight on some of the most interesting future of work topics, innovators, and disruptive technologies. Before we get started with today's topic, just a couple of quick announcements. As you guys and ladies have heard me say in the past, for SHRM members, the Workplace Tech community is now live. This is the TripAdvisor for HR tech. The WTC has a lot of new innovative technologies for your workplace. Please visit workplacetechcommunity.shrm.org. Also, for those of you watching on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, please share this live stream and tag SHRM. You can use the hashtags SHRMLabs as well as Workplace Tech. So let's get into our topic, right? So little pay, long hours, and a lack of career prospects have hindered the professional advancements of millions of frontline workers in the US. About 112 million workers, or 70% of the working population in the US, hold frontline jobs that involve tasks such as waiting tables, folding clothes, or stocking shelves. The obstacles that frontline workers commonly face have contributed to the Great Resignation, as members of this group have left their jobs in droves. For example, quit rates in the hospitality and retail sectors are twice that of the national average. Frontline workers are the backbone of many industries and face very specific HR challenges. And now there's technology out there that's available to help address a lot of these challenges. From facilitating effective task assignment to dynamic resource allocation for adjusting workloads, technology is enabling HR departments to more effectively utilize and manage their frontline workforce through automation. But alongside this progress, there are still many challenges HR teams face, such as keeping frontline workers engaged, as well as onboarding and many other ones. So what can HR do if you're hiring lots of frontline workers and scaling your operations very rapidly? So joining us to talk about this topic today is Jason Radisson, CEO and founder of Movo. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the stage. And maybe before we get started, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself as well as Movo and what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Guillermo, for having me on, and SHRM for sponsoring the show. We at Movo are an HR automation platform specifically for the frontline workforce, and we help with hiring, we help with engagement and onboarding and workforce management, a lot of these topics. I have a long career. I grew up working many of the frontline jobs. I grew up poor, in very poor circumstances, with a 16-year-old single mom. And I went through just that bootstrapping experience of school and work and everything that you do to get ahead. And so this problem has been something that I've been working on my whole life and my whole career. I worked prior to Movo in the gig economy, and really where I saw the opportunity to start Movo was in the gig economy. Things really worked out for companies, but we didn't treat the workforce, we didn't grow the workforce, we didn't provide the kind of career opportunities that needed to happen. And as you said so well in your introduction, we're talking a significant slice of the world economy, a significant slice of the world workforce. So my goal was in the founding of Movo was to take that great gig workforce technology and put it to work for good in better jobs and to create better jobs.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, let's get right to it since we only have a short amount of time
Sure.
here. So maybe first we can start with defining what a high volume frontline workforce looks like. How do you define that?
Sure. We define it as anything from unskilled to very skilled workers who work in person in large volumes in large operations, and the frontline workforce tends to have large employers. These don't tend to be the vast majority of frontline workers are working in Fortune 500 companies. and larger mid-cap companies. That can be in healthcare, that can be nurses, doctors, that can be in logistics, that can be in retail salespeople, retail stocking people, and other operational folks in retail operations. Forklift drivers are a common job class there, and hospitality, hotel workers and restaurant workers and the like.
Yeah, and let's not forget also, K through 12, right? I think that a lot of the workers that work in K through 12, right, come from some of these companies like Sodexo is one that comes to mind, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And there are some job classes, where the economy is really sort of sorely lacking. Adjunct professors is one of the most understaffed frontline jobs in the country. And clean tech and what we're seeing with the clean energy transformation is also, there's a huge gap in that workforce. And obviously these projects are, in small towns and tend to be, where you're doing a wind farm or a solar farm, tend to not be in a big city. So even more workforce struggles there.
Yeah, absolutely. So along those lines, based on, what you're seeing out there, what's the frontline worker problem that a lot of the organizations are dealing with?
Yeah, in a word, not being able to clone people, right? It's we just have a flat to declining population there. More people are retiring than ever before. Fewer people are coming up, and it's just going to get worse because as we look at birth rates in the country, things aren't getting better, and in the 2030s they'll be worse than they are in the 2020s. So this is really the problem. So everybody's got to make do with more. Hiring is more competitive. It was very competitive before the pandemic. It got crazy during the pandemic. That hasn't really eased up. We still have a ton of gaps in our economy in the frontline workforce. So people are trying to retain, upskill. Really, the focus needs to be on sort of managing the entire employee life cycle to have the best utilization of your frontline workforce. You can't hire your way out of it. I wish we had more immigration. We're big proponents, and we've helped several of our clients on immigration topics where that's possible. But it's not a panacea. Those are very small volumes compared to what we're lacking in terms of the frontline workforce.
Yeah, and I think you would agree also that some of the complexities are also related to typically you have these workers that are in multiple sites, right? Spread out, right? So what do you think are some of the complexities or issues there that
totally
specifically at HR deals with, right? With having tons of workers and multiple sites out there.
Oh yeah, and a lot of these more challenging jobs have licensing, right? If you're talking nursing licensing and other considerations, not just state taxes and things. It can be really challenging. I mean, at the core, we're experiencing it. I think we've all got to make do with less, and that means putting your workers, that frontline workforce, in the best possible position in the building that you need them in the role that you need them in. And broadly speaking, that means moving people around. I think a big social trend of the next, 5-10 years is going to be, more travel work. We're already seeing it in nursing. We're definitely seeing it in clean tech because that is the job. But I think all kinds of skilled labor roles where, you're just going to move people around in order to make things happen. And that, from a workforce perspective, it means you've got to be more agile in your scheduling and in your deployment and in your job matching to be able to get the best utilization, the best fit of person to role.
Yeah, and along those lines, a little bit of a side topic here. That's why I'm a big believer and proponent of the HR blockchain, right? Because you were talking about nurses, for example, right now, right? And when a nurse moves, they where the next company or hospital where this person goes, right? they have to go through a background check, so what if that whole process that has already been created, it's sitting out there in the HR blockchain, and you're able to get that person up and running, immediately, instead of having to wait for, the credentials or the verification to come back. As these, as workers are moving, right, obviously, you have to keep them engaged, right, especially when you're talking about this distributed workforce. So what are some use cases that you've seen on how best to engage a distributed workforce?
Yeah, so I think it, one of the most important ways, it begins with something very fundamental. It begins with communication. I worked with Mike Sievert many years ago, the CEO of T-Mobile, and I were at AT&T in a former life, and he always used to say, never forget the product is communication. And I think you can say that about HR in many facets, and particularly in workforce management. Workforce management is really about communication, and our people 100% dialed into their team and their work environment all day long. And I think that's a big part. We certainly see that in our platform, chat groups, and having a secure way for people to be interacting all day long while they're on their shifts. I think one of the other ones is upskilling, and analytics helps a lot there, because you can really see where there are opportunities for a person to step up, and this is something that really kind of favors employers of 1,000 people or more, I'll say, because you get really good pattern matching. You can see in the data that's coming off the systems who really fits a senior or a more senior role, and you're able to proactively suggest to them that they take the additional training and that they step up. It's a little bit like predictive promotions in a way, and that's really how we view upskilling, and I think that's just becoming the modern standard for upskilling.
Got it. So one of the things that you brought up earlier was the fact that we now have 10,000 baby boomers that are retiring on a daily basis, right? So clearly there's a lack of workers out there, and that just keeps growing, right? So over the past few months, we've heard a lot about AI, right? I mean, ChatGPT has been all over the news, right?
Right.
A lot of people are afraid of it. I personally think that they're being short-sighted in that regard. But how do you see a lot of these AI changes that are happening, impacting HR, and more specifically, as it relates to frontline workers?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think really the topic for a large part of the audience is going to be the HR automation topic, and AI in its various forms just helps your automation be better, smarter. I don't specifically see that chat as a technology has been around for a while. I don't think Chat GPT and sort of text-based interfaces are where things are going. I don't think we'll be chatting with our HR systems as we're deploying our workforces so much as you're already seeing on top of Chat GPT, people are building GUIs. And I think the reason for that is chat and speech isn't always the most effective way to get information in and out of a system. For the same reason we've had autopilot for a long time in airplanes, and yet how would you ever compress the experience of being a pilot down to talking to a system, right? You've got so many different things that you're looking at. You've got so many different places to interact. So I think it's an evolution. There are going to be really nice ways to just chat with your HR system and have the system do different things. But I think long term, where this is headed is the automation that's already underway will just have better interfaces, and it'll just be easier to use the system. We've had in the gig economy, we had this role that was often filled with sort of operations research, sort of, industrial engineers, where you kind of sit and you adjust dials on the platform to get more drivers out on the road, to move more delivery people to a different part of the city, or move them between sites if you're running a dark kitchen or some other kind of gig platform. So I think that the tech is there. I think the bigger opportunity is bringing that HR automation technology, broadly speaking, into more workplaces. I think that's what we're going to see the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see, you know, a lot of, I foresee a lot of AI functionality that's going to definitely help HR become more efficient and strategic without a doubt. So one final question that I have for you here, and you know, because we have a short amount of time left.
Sure.
So for those companies that are scaling very fast, right? How can HR help these companies scale very fast, right? And I'm thinking about, you know, HR should be there to ensure that there's you know, that these companies are operating as efficient as possible, right? Think of data that might be out there that needs to be collected, operations, recruiting, onboarding, retaining processes, etc. Right? When a company is scaling very rapidly, right, HR needs to be there to ensure that you know that the trains run on time, right? So what are some of the things that HR could do along those lines?
Yeah, totally. So totally, and I think it's the very operational part of HR that we're talking about. You know, we have to go out and hire 1,000 people, you know, that kind of a thing. We have to go and train or onboard, you know, or go through skills training for thousands of people potentially. You know, you're starting up a new hotel, or you know, you're opening a couple new warehouses. These are these kinds of scenarios. I think the automation is like the superpower for HR, right? Because it means that you can take that team of 5 or 10 people and, you know, get 10 times more impact out in the marketplace with them, and make it seem like a team of 500 HR people. So it really, you know, some of the areas are hiring automation. So just, you know, all of the processing of paperwork in the hiring process. You know, old school ATS would tell the recruiter which sort of steps to go through. New school hiring automation just does all those steps with a bunch of integrations. And so your recruiters can spend their time talking to candidates and not dealing with paperwork. Ditto for onboarding, similar kind of thing. You know, how do I get all those tax forms filled out and do all of these other operational things? That can totally be offloaded to automated systems. There's a lot of stuff there, I think. And then, you know, broadly speaking, the whole deployment piece, getting employee scheduling up really quickly and very optimized, and being able to have a lot of self-service, so that I think is also very engaging. We were talking about, you know, employee engagement earlier. Like, if I'm able to go in and I feel as an employee I have some control over my schedule, it doesn't need to be gig where, you know, maybe I work today, maybe I don't work today, but more I can put in for schedule modifications. I can try to work a day that really suits me, or have a day off that really suits me, you know, maybe in my regular schedule. This kind of flexibility, modern software, HR automation software, really lets you do all of that stuff. And like I said, you know, we would never have enough HR professionals to be able to support all of these great services that we're able to do if we sort of give the HR team these great automation tools. So I think it's really, we're entering this kind of new era where this great tech is available, and people should really take advantage of it, and particularly if you've got a large frontline workforce.
Yeah, and I totally believe that you know, having HR self-service or implementing HR self-service, if you want to call it that, is definitely going to help HR become more strategic and efficient, without a doubt. Before we go, any resources out there that you think might be useful to the HR professionals that are watching us now?
Yeah, definitely. You know, our website is movo.co, movo.co. We have a lot of product videos, features on there. We have a lot of blog posts on different areas, emerging areas in AI and HR, other HR tech topics. I think really, you know, easy to get in touch with us there as well, or schedule a demo.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation. And for you out there, we hope you enjoyed it as well. If you'd like more information about Movo, please visit them at Movo, Movo.co. Thank you for tuning into the SHRMLabs Workplace Tech Spotlight. If you enjoy this live stream, please share it using hashtags SHRMLabs, WorkplaceTech, and SHRM. Visit us at SHRMLabs.com to stay up to date, and we hope we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great Friday, everyone.